Hey, how you doing? Rob, Order 42. Yeah, we're going to do something a little bit different today. Today I wanted to talk about Star Wars. Yeah. I mean, look, I think most people know by this point, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I always have been. Of course, I'm a fan of the Tolkien and all the, Dune and all kinds of things, all kinds of sci-fi fantasy. I'm a fan of all of that stuff, but Star Wars, it was my first love. I mean, I think my first memory, I think I've said this on the channel before. My first memory was the Star Destroyer and the probe droids at the beginning of Empire Strikes Back in 1980. When I saw it in the theater, it's my first memory. It's like the first thing that I can remember. So I came online in Star Wars, right? So, of course, yeah, I mean, that's kind of how it happened. But what I wanted to talk about today was the problem with Star Wars right now. There's a tendency online, especially, that there's just not a lot of there's not a lot of hope. There's not a lot of I don't know. People just aren't talking about Star Wars with any sort of reverence like they used to. So what can they do about it? And what's the problem? And what's the future looking like? That's what we're going to be talking about today. Now, I think a lot of people will immediately just say, "Oh, it's Disney. Disney screwed up Star Wars." Well, I mean, to a certain extent, kind of, yes, but I mean, you can't discount all of the good things that have come out of it. I mean, there's a lot of great stuff that has come out of Disney Star Wars since they bought it. I mean, I look at Rogue One. I look at the first two movies of the sequel trilogy. I look at Solo. I look at the Clone Wars. I look at the Mandalorian. I mean, we've had some good stuff in there, and I think there's something for pretty much any Star Wars fan in those things. The only problem that I have with it is that a lot of it is steeped in that nostalgia kind of thing, right? It's too dependent on what came before, and I think that's probably Star Wars' biggest problem right now. The sequel trilogy in particular seems like it was just destined to fail from the very beginning because there wasn't a focus on storytelling, on crafting this thing that will stand the test of time. No, the focus was on trying to recoup their $4 billion investment from purchasing Lucasfilm as quickly as possible, and that meant trying to hit every note possible. It's like, oh well, they didn't like this. Well, let's change this, and oh, let's try this, and let's do it was too reactionary instead of, like I said, just focusing on telling a good story. Two of my favorite things to come out of Disney Star Wars is The Mandalorian and The Bad Batch. But season 2 of Mandalorian in particular had kind of a distressing amount of callbacks to previous Star Wars media. I mean, there was just a lot of it. And while I kind of appreciate the connections to other things and almost in ways where it kind of makes you like, oh, who's this Ahsoka person, right? If you hadn't watched Clone Wars before, Ahsoka gets, introduced into the show, and you're like, a lot of people are like, well, who the heck is this Ahsoka person? Maybe that will lead people into watching the Clone Wars. It's a smart marketing decision, right? But is it good for the character of Mandalorian and this big story being told that it seems to have shied away from being able to do its own thing? Instead, let's see how many things we can tie in to try to make this like this big universe where everybody has to consume everything. Just tell a good story, and I think people will be happy with that. Clone Wars season 7 was, man, it was good. It was really, really good stuff, and I mean, wow, that was amazing. Then The Bad Batch came out. And the problem to me with The Bad Batch, if you can point at one thing that was like, that didn't really work too well, it's the amount of callbacks and the amount of cameos and things like that. But yeah, that's just too much. I mean, it was almost like this is a lot. This is a lot of reliance on what came before. The future, though, looks pretty bright. There's some exciting things on the horizon for Star Wars, but I mean, let's listen to these things, right? The Book of Boba Fett from the original trilogy. You've got Star Wars Obi-Wan. I mean, need I say more? Ahsoka. Yes. And The Mandalorian Season 3. So all of those things are dependent upon other things. And that's kind of the thing that I'm kind of like, is there anything like new coming? I don't want to sound like I'm being like super negative here because I'm really not. I love, like I said, I love Star Wars. It's like I said, my first love. So I'm very, very excited about all of these things. I think they're going to be awesome. I think the Book of Boba Fett comes out December 29th. I mean, we're only a few days away from that. I'm really excited to see it. I just want it to be able to stand on its own, right? I want it to be able to I want them to be able to tell a story without everything else getting in the way. And I think that's the solution. Allow these characters that we're experiencing, allow them to stand on their own. Allow them to go to places we have never seen before. Do we really need to go to Tatooine in every single thing that comes out that's Star Wars? I mean, that's been one of my complaints from the beginning. I mean, sure, that's where kind of Star Wars kind of started and all that kind of. I get it, but come on, let's move away from the desert planet in the Outer Rim, right? The one that it's supposed to be a backwater planet in the middle of nowhere. How do we keep finding ourselves going back there? One of my biggest pet peeves, and I apologize if I upset anybody here, but when Solo came out, there were so many different people that said, "Oh, there's no reason for this to exist," and no one asked for this. Well, no one asked for the original Star Wars either. Sometimes we don't know what we want until we get it, right? So let them tell their story. I mean, even if it is going to be something like, say, Obi-Wan or Ahsoka, all of these things that are basically coming from other pieces of the Star Wars universe, who cares if anybody asks for it? Tell the story and stick with it. I think the thing that has really kind of annoyed me with the way that Disney / Lucasfilm has done their stuff, is that they seem to be very reactive instead of just allowing their stories to breathe and allowing their stories to be told from point A to point B to point C and moving on. Be comfortable with the fact that there's going to be people that may not like it. I mean, and that's the thing. If you can hit a good 60-70% of your audience, that's still pretty good. And I feel like in a lot of ways, that's kind of where they went wrong with the sequel trilogy. I feel like Star Wars Visions, even though there's a lot of it that really just didn't appeal to me at the same level as some of the others, that is a promising start, right? And I feel like at this point, I think Lucasfilm is being allowed to breathe a little bit and to say, you know what, let's try some things. Let's be a little riskier. And I think that's a really, really smart move. I think Star Wars Visions was pretty awesome for what it was. I mean, all of these different creators being able to just go wild in the Star Wars universe. More of that, please. One of the things that I'm really kind of excited about, and I feel like we may be getting there, is maybe leaning into some new eras, right? Like the High Republic, right? They created the High Republic to be kind of a new place to play, right? Go with that. Just look, there's going to be people that love reading the books and love reading the comics and all, and that's great. I mean, I'm a reader too. But you have to also understand that there's going to be a lot of people that are never going to read those books. Just never going to do it. So, create some content for those, Maybe a one-off little 4-episode little mini-series, right? Or I mean, heck, go wild and tell some of these bigger stories in the High Republic era. Go outside of where we've been, right? We've started with episode 1 and episode 9, and that's really where everything has been told from basically since 1977. The only one that really kind of went off the beaten path was Star Wars Visions, and like I said, that one just went crazy and just said, okay, this is kind of a new, it was awesome. I mean, not canon, but still really, really fun. I think one of the biggest things that Lucasfilm / Disney, whoever really is in control, because I mean, Disney says they're hands off, but come on, I don't think they are. I really don't think they are. I actually feel that a lot of the blame has landed at the feet of Kathleen Kennedy, when I think that some other people stepped in. I'll just say that other people stepped in and said, "No, we're not going to go that route. Look at all the stuff going online. No, we got to change this. We got to." I'm pretty sure that's what happened, and unfortunately, Kathleen Kennedy took all the blame. One of the best producers in the last 50 years. But anyway, the thing to do is to focus on storytellers, right? Focus on those people that can expand the Star Wars universe into new eras, into even new genres, right? Let's get outside of the Skywalker saga, right? Let's get away from that timeline and try to go into some different times. I mean, look, I love that timeline. I love those movies. I love those eras just as much as anyone else. But we've seen it. Let's move on to some different places. There's nothing more irritating than seeing a story being told and then all of a sudden, oh yeah, we're back on Tatooine again. Great. So now I turn it over to you. I mean, these are just my thoughts, on where Disney / Lucasfilm has been and possibly where they're going to go. What do you think? What do you think they could do to make Star Wars? Well, let's just make it a healthier place for not only for us, the fans, but the internet as a whole. Let me know what you think down below and we'll talk about it. Cause, this is something that, well, like I said, Star Wars is my first love. So I do love it dearly. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching and we'll see you on the next one.